to the Shreya Wellness Podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Hendrickson, and I'm here with my friend, Miss Jamie Kruse.
Hello.
Good to see y'all again, and happy to have you here. So today we're going to take a little bit of a deeper dive into who Jamie is and hear a little bit more about her practice, Torus Therapy, and how she developed that practice and what she's up to. So Jamie, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you've got going on?
Okay, so hello everybody, welcome. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to share. Torus Therapy is located in Batavia, Illinois. It started through, the name actually just changed. So it was Jamie Kruse Therapy, which is clearly my last name. And then in January of 2022, we actually changed the name to Torus. The name change started because Jamie Kruse is solely me. And as I've been practicing under Jamie Kruse and on this journey, it's not about me. It's about everybody else, including you guys. And so Torus is a representation of it's an energy, and it's the heart energy. It's the connection energy. And I thought, what a beautiful name for something that we do here really well, which is connecting to the heart and opening up that heart center. And so, Torus came 2022. The idea, though, of Torus has been in the making for a while, a little unbeknownst to me. It kind of dropped down and kind of smacked me in the head about 3 years ago. But 7 years ago, I started to listen to my intuition for the first time. And that's really how this all came to be. I learned that, and I teach that listening into your gut, into your intuition, is really the truth of who you are. And it's really a manifestation, I should say, of your high self kind of coming down and guiding you and nudging you and moving you into these spaces where you may not know, but once you're there, it's like everything starts to flow because it's supposed to be. It's divinely led. And I didn't know this. I knew nothing about this. And it was it's been quite a journey, an uncomfortable one at that. And that's why we're here to talk about when we do start to tap into this and into the uncomfortable feelings, that what happens during the process. So for me, I was pregnant with my daughter, and I was on bed rest, and I had I was working for a community mental health agency, but I wasn't really working because I was on bed rest. And prior to this position, I was working at a hospital, and I got a phone call. Someone had referred me a client to see in private practice. I'm traditionally, clearly a therapist. I've been practicing for 15 years or so now. And I said, I'm not in private practice. And they said, well, you should be. And I hung up the phone and I said, what? And this little voice came in and said, well, go ahead, open up. And I was like, no, I can't do that. And 2 weeks later, I opened up my private practice.
It's great how it happens, isn't it?
It is. And within 3 months, I was pregnant and I was seeing clients, and I was as full as I wanted to be at the time because of my pregnancy. And I didn't do a whole lot of marketing, and it was just like everything was kind of flowing to me, and it was kind of bizarre, quite honestly, because you talk to people who get into this, and there's a lot of heavy startup work, but I have been super, super blessed that for me, because I think the path is designed for me, that it hasn't been that way. And I think as we move forward and talk to you guys, you will find that if you're doing something that is in your purpose, it's hard. I'm not going to say that, but there's a lot of grace and ease also in it as well.
Flow, right? You're in flow. It doesn't feel like work because there's not so much resistance.
Yeah, and I didn't know what that meant. I thought that life was. I remember thinking to myself, is it this easy? It can't be this easy. And I sometimes I still have those moments throughout. Even I have difficulties. I'm not going to say that I don't. So I started the private practice 2015. I moved around a lot of places. I became an EMDR therapist along my journey. EMDR stands for eye movement reprocessing desensitization. So I read a book that kind of opened my eyes to trauma, and knowing when I was practicing, I knew that trauma, everybody had it, and I was looking for a way to really try and heal people at a deeper level instead of a cognitive level. Even though I don't even think I knew it at the time. But I got into EMDR and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I healed so much for myself. And EMDR is a way that truly, I think the modality does. You do heal yourself. EMDR therapist serves as guides, as all traditional psychotherapists do. However, there's more of an internal, EMDR therapists hold space where you kind of really figure out your own stuff while just having a guide there and having us be present. And so it was a game changer for me, an eye opener to me in how I did therapy moving forward. And I just fell in love with it. So then moving forward in 2018, in October of 2018, I attended an EMDR conference in Atlanta, Georgia. And I went into a workshop called Residents in the Therapy Room. And I thought the title was really cool. And Dr. Irene Siegel, presented that workshop. And it was, little did I know at that point that workshop would change my life forever. I walked into the classroom, I sat down, and Dr. Irene started talking about energy. And at that point in my life, I knew about energy work. I've heard about Reiki. I actually had a Reiki session at one point. I got turned away from Reiki when I did it. I was kind of pushed into it by a dear friend of mine who knew that I would love it, which I did, but I got scared really quickly. And so I decided at that point that this wasn't something that I wanted to do and I wanted to work with. And when I sat down and I heard Dr. Irene speaking, I had the eye roll and I was like, here we go. This is something that I'm going to be open. I'm going to sit in it. I'm not going to leave, but here we go. So at the end of the workshop, she sits us down and does a meditation. And during the meditation, I would call kind of an awakening moment for me. And I was so moved in this process that after I got up from meditation, I actually got up and spoke in front of the class, something that I would have never done before, and spoke about it. And I don't know what I felt. It was something that I can't even express into words. And after the class, I had a lot of people kind of come and surround me and tell me all these things. Jamie, you opened your third eye and all these things. And I was like, I don't even know what that is. And I don't want to know what that is. And I walked then for the rest of the trip. I was not myself. I was changed and I didn't know what was changing. And I say that because what was happening is that I was feeling things that I had never felt before. And now I can say that I was feeling energy, but at the time I had no idea what I was feeling. I was seeing things, I was seeing colors, I closed my eyes and I saw lots of things and I was so ungrounded and I didn't know what was going on and I thought I was losing it. And so I met a very dear friend there at the conference and she kind of held my hand through the whole weekend and I ended up leaving early and I was on the plane and I remember sitting on the plane and I remember the person sitting down next to me and I felt an immense amount of energy coming from him. And again, I didn't have the words for it because I was still like, I don't know what this is. I'm still battling this in my head. And I started to feel things after everybody was like walking down the aisle and I couldn't close my eyes and it was so unsettling. I got home and flew into Midway, drove home, and everything looked different. Everything looked brighter, everything had more color, everything was more vibrant. Every sensation was hitting me a different way. I was worried on my drive home of what my ex-husband was going to think about it. I was scared that he was going to admit me to a mental hospital. And so I went home and tried to keep it under wraps. And I went into the office the next day and I actually called my teacher, Dr. Irene, who did the class. And since then, my life has completely changed. My practice has completely changed. Everything about Jamie Kruse has completely changed. I started to realize that my body is just a body, and I have a soul that resides in this body throughout my work with Dr. Irene. Through meditation classes and intuition classes and Reiki classes and energy classes and spiritual response therapy training and more EMDR work, all of and acupuncture and chiropractic and sound healing and massage and being in a community that really held me to be able to see me and my gifts and be able to guide my knowledge and my knowing and my intuition, to have the people to support me there, guided this whole process. And life began to change because as I became more clear and began to heal some of these wounds that I thought that I had healed a long time ago that clearly were not healed, again, my awareness began to go from this to then this and 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 this, and now it's like here. And within that awareness, I realized that there's lots of things in my life that had to change and had to move and had to shift. And
that can be scary. Right?
Oh, hugely
I
scary.
would imagine a lot of you have experienced that. So can you talk a little bit about, like, how did you start to recognize what needed to shift? Like, what were the signs and the signals that you saw that made it undeniable?
Yeah, I think for me, a couple of things. So I think isolation for me was huge before I tapped into myself. And when I was isolated, I didn't have fact checks. I didn't have reality checks. My only reality was my reality. And I thought that was just perfectly fine. And so as I healed and as I expanded my community more and more and more, I started to notice that the way that I was living and I was once living, it didn't match who I was becoming. And so the community, the people itself really helped me, and the energy shifts helped me. So learning about energy and learning how my body felt in one space in my life versus then moving into this different space. What does that feel like? What's the difference there? This doesn't feel so good. This feels so good. So that awareness also, because I would just start to check in, like my body would not feel good in certain situations. And I would know then. And I would then say, okay, well, something's got to change. And then what does it have to change? And are you kidding me? I don't want to do this again. Right. And, but fortunately, that's how Torus came. It's because of feeling into who I was, where I was practicing in the past. I knew something had to change, and it had to change really quickly because the people that I was surrounding myself with before I opened like this, they weren't the greatest people. They were unhealthy, and that's okay.
Yeah, and that's kind of like what we talked about in the first episode, like that alignment piece. Right?
Yes.
Things were not quite in alignment, and it starts to create inner turmoil and angst or frustration or resentment or anxiety or depression. These are all signals, right? And we don't really get taught that in society. So people just think something's wrong with me because I feel this way.
Well, and then you're told, right? You're told by the people who are around you that you've been with for so long that you are wrong,
right?
Because you were at one time in alignment with them. And as you start to grow, you're not in alignment with them anymore, and they don't want to lose that piece of you. So they're kind of like, no, you're fine. You're okay.
Yeah.
Just go, you're fine.
Right. Can you talk a little bit more about what spiritual response therapy is for those who are not familiar with it?
Yeah. So spiritual response therapy it's energy work. It's clearing. So the premise is that our soul is here for a purpose. And if those of us that believe in reincarnation, again, I'm just going to throw it out there. I know everybody's not going to share the same beliefs, and I'm not going to push these beliefs on anybody. But if we believe in reincarnation, if we have these past lives, every life moving then forward, if we're not completing the purpose in that one life, and we're now reincarnated in this next, that purpose then transitions to this next life, because I have to, my soul wants to complete that purpose. And so it's going to keep having lives until that purpose is completed. Now, what happens is, if I don't complete that purpose, there's lots of other things that happen in life, and relationships and energies and things that I have to work on as a soul. And if I'm not clearing things, if I'm not making sure that things are cleared up in that life, all of those energies gets moved to the next life. Spiritual response therapy is a way that we clear all of the energies in all of the past lives that are blocking and preventing the soul from moving forward.
So kind of like that old saying, you repeat the lesson until you learn it kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
Cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Jamie also, just to kind of give her a little bit of, I don't even know, props? Is that the right word?
Sure, I'll take it.
She's done a great job at gathering people and building an amazingly supportive community. She hosts a ton of regular events. You'll need to check the website. Where can they check your website? Because she does monthly events, so they're always happening, but we can't talk too specifically about them because I don't know exactly the dates every month. So
Yeah.
where do they find that information?
So if you go to the website, www.torus.therapy.com, Torus, TORUS-therapy.com, you'll be able to go to our events page, and then all the events on the page will be listed there. All of our services are also listed there. So I know I spent a lot of time talking about my healing journey, and that's just to give you an idea of who I am as a psychotherapist, that I'm here to help clear out trauma and wounds so that you can get into that best version of you. And all of the clinicians here are at different levels of their own healing and meet everybody where they're at. And so we have 6 clinicians that work here. I think it's 6. It might be 7 now. I can't remember. We keep adding more, which is fantastic and great. We just keep growing, and I don't even know. It just keeps happening. So we have a whole team of clinicians that are able to meet you. We have people that specialize in addictions. We have people that specialize in couples work, transition work, especially women who are maybe ending career, moving from corporate America to really listening to what this heart is saying. And that's a big move. That's a big transition for a lot of women. Empty nesters, kids going off to college. We have therapists that work with teens and adolescents going through those kind of trials and tribulations. So we have a plethora of therapists that are able to meet you where you're at. We also do yoga here, which is very individualized. We don't do group, well, we will be doing group yoga, but right now the yoga is focused on individual work. As clients come and find their voice with the therapist, yoga helps them see their voice in the movement of yoga. So we do believe that yoga is a very important piece of healing here at Torus. And then, but you could find all of our services on the page there.
And can people who don't live in the Chicago area work with you? Do you do telemedicine, or is it all in person?
We do telemedicine. So some of our therapists are remote. So just let us know kind of what you need. I do believe in the power of connection. And so if you could make it to come to one of our events, that would be phenomenal and great, because not only does the connection piece help shift, the connection piece is so important, again, because as I talked in my own journey, as we shift from isolation to community, we're able to experience things on a sensory level that are not traditionally what we normally feel. And that normally what we feel is what's comfortable. And when we shift to something new, being in a group and having these new sensory experiences, it's the body kind of like goes, oh, like I kind of like this. And then the body's going to want more of it. And so that's partly why the events are so important here, because you just don't get that outside of these walls.
Yeah. And being able to connect with people who have had similar experiences or going through similar experiences to help guide you along the way, I think is really important as well.